Give me fuel, give me fire, give me double shot inside.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Chris, and welcome to today's New England 300 here at the New Hampshire International Speedway for the start of the last half of the season. Chicagoland, as a matter of fact, last time out was the end of the first half of the season, and here in New Hampshire, it'll be the start of the second half of the season. And this is going to be an interesting race to see who can run down the current Winston Cup points leader, Zachary Smithly. And speaking of which, here are the point standings before going into today's race. As coming out of last week at Chicagoland, Zachary didn't really get a good finish. He got a 23rd place finish and dropped a couple points to Jeff Gordon in P2. You got Ryan Newman in P3, Ricky Rudd in 4th, Jimmy Johnson 5th, Bill Elliott in 6th, Kurt Busch 7th, Jeff Green in 8th, Jeff Byrne in 9th, and Matt Kenseth in 10th. As we look through the rest of the point standings, starting off with the top 20, got some notable names in here like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Bobby Labonte, Jamie McMurray, and Dale Jarrett, as a matter of fact. Kevin Harvick is there, Tony Stewart is there, Jerry Nadeau and Tony Raines are some pretty interesting names to be up there in the top 20. And then you got some other pretty big names down here in the top 30 where it's getting about that time to where we might be considering that they may or may not be competing for the championship come season's end. And then drivers pretty much anywhere outside the top 40 don't really mathematically have a shot at the championship. They're pretty much too far down, but some drivers aren't competing full time, others are. But that doesn't really take away from the fact that a lot of these drivers are mathematically out of contention, and the main drivers, I would have to say, are pretty much beneath or from Mike Skinner on down. Those are the drivers that are pretty much not in contention for the championship, and we only have half the races to go. I mean, maybe something will change, but who knows at this point. But really the only way to find out is by going on ahead and jumping into today's race. So let's go on ahead and get to the starting lineup for the start of today's race here at the New England 300 at the New Hampshire International Speedway, shall we? So starting off this starting lineup, we got in row number 1 is Rusty Wallace with yet another pole this season, his first one since Pocono. And to his outside is Jimmy Johnson. Then in row number 2, you'll find Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Winston Cup points leader Zachary Smithly, who's in need of a really good race today. In row number 3, it is last race winner Ricky Rudd, and to his outside is Tony Stewart. And I got it mixed up, actually. Rusty Wallace got his first pole of the season because Dale Jarrett won the pole at Pocono. Rusty was just up there a lot in the beginning. He actually won his first pole, as a matter of fact, back at Atlanta. Then on number 4, it is Kevin Harvick and John Andretti with a really good qualifying performance, and that Richard Petty Motorsports number 43. Number 5, it is Kurt Busch and Kyle Petty, who is also the second driver in that Richard Petty Motorsports team, and he also got a really good qualifying position. Row number 6, it is Dale Jarrett and Bill Elliott. Row 7 today, it is Jerry Mayfield continuing on a really string of strong runs. That was a little bit harder to get out than I thought, with a good qualifying position today, and Ward Byrne to his outside, who is in dire need of some good points. And in row number 8, it is second place in the Winston Cup Championship points, Jeff Gordon, and to his outside, Johnny Benson, looking to make something out of it towards the end of the season. Row 9, it is Terry Labonte, who's been on an uprise, as of late, and to his outside is Dave Blaney. Row 10, you will find Mark Martin and Casey Mears. Row 11 today, you'll find Jeff Green and Jeff Burton, the Jeffs. Row 12, it is Tony Raines, who is still looking for another top 10 finish. He got one last time out of Chicagoland, and it's hoping to get one today. And to his outside is Jimmy Spencer. Row 13 today, you'll find Kenny Wallace and Todd Bodine. Row 14 today, it is Ricky Craven and Steve Park. Row 15 today, it is the rookie Greg Biffle, and to his outside is Elliott Sadler. Row 16 today, it is Ryan Newman and Jamie McMurray. Row 17 today is Sterling Marlin and Joe Nemechek got his first top 10 of the season, or his first top 10 in a long time this season, back at Chicagoland. Row 18 today, it is Ken Schrader and Michael Waltrip. Row 19 will be Larry Foyt and Robbie Gordon. Row 20 today will be Matt Kenseth and Jerry Nadeau. And in row 21, it'll be the return of Jack Sprague, his first race back after his horrifying practice crash at Richmond 9 races ago. And to his outside, it is Mike Skinner. And round of the field at row 22, it is Bobby Labonte. And then we have the DNQs, which are only 3 today. Those drivers being Brett Bodine, Kevin LePage, and David Green, who has still yet to make his first start of the season thus far. And now we have some track information. So the pit window will be around lap 40 to lap 46. Now this is where it gets interesting. Tires can last around 40 to 50 laps depending on how good you can manage your tires from the beginning of the race until the pit cycle or the pit window opens at lap 40. You can stretch to lap 50, but depending on how you use them, you might be able to get there, but it might be sooner, it might be later. It really just kind of depends. And the fuel, you could almost make it to the end of the race, but you can't really make it to the end of the race just on fuel. You kind of need tires in order to be able to cross the start-finish line. And that is why tire management is going to be the name of the game today, again, just like at Chicagoland. And also here in New Hampshire, the middle and high line are going to be the driver's best friend. One thing about here in New Hampshire, the bottom line doesn't act normally. It is not the same bottom line as in any other race, so it's a little bit different for today. So drivers are going to be running those middle and high lines for pretty much the majority of the race. The main question today is, and pretty much the main question we've had pretty much since the beginning of the season is, are we going to have a new winner or will we have a new multi-time winner? As currently, right now, there are now 9 drivers that have won a race so far this season. Those drivers being Zachary Smithly, Jeff Burton, Ryan Newman, Bill Elliott, Jamie Johnson, Jamie McMurray, Gray Biffle, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jarrett, and Ricky Rudd last time out at Chicagoland. But the only way to find out is by going ahead and sending it up to the NBC booth of Alan Bestwick, Wally Dallenbach, and Benny Parsons leads to the green flag. But first, a quick word from Bill Weber from Pit Road.
Don't forget about the gentleman's agreement. When the caution comes out today, the one thing the drivers will be watching, other drivers. Alan?
300 laps around this track that measures just over a mile in length, just over $4 million on the line, and the second half of the NASCAR Winston Cup season begins before a sellout crowd in New England. Matt Kenseth brings into the green.
And to lead lap number 1, it is that Miller Lite Dodge of Rusty Wallace leading the first lap here in New Hampshire. You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. going at it on Jimmy Johnson on the outside. Dale Jr. having a pretty strong car so far. So he can maybe get that position on Jimmy Johnson off turn 2, and it looks like he can. So Dale Earnhardt Jr. now sits second, pushing Johnson towards his Hendrick affiliate teammate, Zachary Smithly in the 80. See Zach trying to maybe peek to the inside, see if he can really do anything down there. It doesn't quite look like it. He'll stick behind the 48 for now. See Tony sort of right behind him. Oh, whoa! Zachary going into the corner, got right in front of Tony, as it seemed like Tony was going to dive it into the corner, and Zach pretty much put a stop to that. Holy moly! Lap 3, and we're already getting crazy. Speaking of which, here comes Dale Jr. to the inside of Rusty Wallace for the race lead. Did Jr. get the run off turn number 4? Is it going to go to Rusty Wallace? Rusty will get the run on the outside, and that'll take him back to the front, but for how long? Here comes Jr. fighting back on the inside. Can Rusty run that higher line? Jr. he doesn't push him off the track a whole lot. He pushed him up a little bit, and there he goes. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is out front in New Hampshire. The DEI number 8 hasn't led as much so far this season. Last race he ended up leading some laps in was back at Pocono beginning of the summer. As actually towards the back, you see Zachary Smithly actually going at it on Jimmy Johnson, and he actually passed Jimmy Johnson for P3 down the front straightaway. Maybe Rusty has something for that 8 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He kind of fights back a little bit. Here he comes. Jumps at that outside, trying to see if maybe Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to slip up going into 3 and 4. He doesn't. Seems like Rusty just cannot run the higher lines. You see Johnson, he can run the bottom pretty well. Actually ran the bottom really well enough to the point where he almost got Zach, but Smithly got a better run on that outside line, and he carried the momentum to keep third over Johnson. As Johnson's going to try the higher line a little bit. You see Tony, he's way up there. As a matter of fact, Ricky Rudd, behind them, he was way up the racetrack too. Drivers are searching for extra grip early on in the race. Notable thing about Zachary Smithly, the 80 car, he had a pretty strong showing in the first half of the Chicagoland race, and it kind of fell off towards the pit cycle began in that race, which was towards the halfway point. Fell to a 23rd. Today, he's looking for a bit of a bounce back because he lost some points to Jeff Gordon. Gonna try to take it on his rival, Rusty Wallace. Got a little bit concerned there. Didn't know if Zach was going to get tight off turn number 2 and put Rusty in the wall, kind of like what happened back at Pocono, coming off turn 1. Thankfully, that didn't happen. Johnson looking low again. Wow. Johnson can really roll the bottom a lot. Zachary, whoa! Another move by Zachary that makes all of our hearts drop once again. And he grabs second, and Kyle Petty, what in the world? Kyle Petty just shot all the way to the outside. He was ahead of Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick for that matter, but not anymore. He just lost 2 positions. He's going to lose yet another position to Ricky Rudd back there too. See Jimmy Johnson battling it out for third on Rusty. Rusty running that lower line. Maybe that'll help him out a little bit, but Johnson, he actually might get the run off the high line, which he does. That's going to allow Johnson to take third place away from Rusty. Rusty kind of going backwards, unfortunately. Not where Rusty wanted to go. He wanted to move forward, and he wanted to keep being forward and not going backwards. Meanwhile, up at the front, Dale Earnhardt Jr. maintaining the gap ever so slightly over Zachary Smithly. Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's had a pretty up and down season. Going into this race, he sat 11 in the points, and this is actually the closest he's been to the top 10 all season long. As for Jimmy Johnson in that 48 car, Jimmy, his last win was at Bristol, but he's maintained a top 5 points position pretty much all season long. So Johnson in that 48 car, he's been a pretty outstanding driver thus far this season. But the main driver that I have to say that has shocked the most of us is the guy that's ahead of him. That 80 car of Zachary Smithly, going into today, he did not think he'd be leading the Winston Cup points. As a matter of fact, he thought he'd be in the 20s in the point standings. But he's had such a good season that he's leading the points halfway through the season. And this is actually the longest he's had the points lead thus far. He grabbed the points lead back after the Coca-Cola 600, and he's kept the point lead ever since. We look further back to Dale Jarrett and Kurt Busch going at it. Kurt Busch still searching for that first win. Dale Jarrett, he's got a pretty good car going right now. He might be trying to search for that second win of the season. That 88 car has been coming back to life towards the midway point of the season. It all started back at Pocono, and it's just been an uprise ever since for that 88 team. Kurt Busch, he's had a pretty good season without a single win. He's been there. It's just been sad that he hasn't been able to get a win. We would like to say that today might be the day, but who knows at this point, because Dale Jarrett, he's kind of keeping him at bay as well. And Johnson, he actually got around the point leader to grab second from Smithly. Now he'll set his sights after Dale Earnhardt Jr. And look at the top 3 leaders, all within a second of one another. Kevin Harvick, actually back behind Smithly, is actually lurking, trying to see if anything will happen between these 3. Junior he did something interesting in turns 1 and 2. He actually kind of cut Johnson off mid-corner to prevent him from getting a run on the bottom. As there comes Johnson back on the inside in 3 and 4. Johnson rolls that bottom so well, that's going to get him the lead coming off of turn number 4. And Jimmy Johnson is out front at New Hampshire. Here comes Smithly. Whoa, he looked to the inside of Earnhardt Jr. He didn't quite take it. He could have. He thought otherwise. Probably a smart move on Smithly. He been trying to play it more cleanly, more tidy. Ever since what happened at Talladega, he's been really trying to tidy it up and keep it clean, and he didn't want to force the issue on Earnhardt Jr., and he did a pretty good job of doing so. As you see, Johnson just kind of pulling away from Dale Jr. So Johnson, he might have better, his car might be that much better than Junior's. But Junior, he may have backed off a little bit, so may have Smithly, to savor their tires, and Johnson might just be going for it, which is the main thing that you drivers got to watch out for, that they don't try to do. And as we're heading through the field and looking at drivers like Rusty Wallace and Tony Stewart, we're going to go on ahead and do what we've been doing since Pocono, the lap 16 tribute to the late great Biffle. There was the lap 16 tribute to the late great Biffle. As the further we go back, we see Terry Labonte, Tony Raines, there's Jeff Byrne in that new paint scheme for the number 99 Sitco Ford, and right behind him, there's Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon, he got a pretty good heap amount of points coming out of Chicagoland after finishing almost 10 spots ahead of his driver in his own car in Zachary Smithly. Jeff Gordon, he didn't really have a good Chicagoland race. He's trying to have a good race today, and he's going to try to see if he can maybe get up to where Zachary is, because the more points he can gain on Smithly, the better. See Bill Elliott and Joe Nemechek going at it for position. Ooh, Nemechek, he went really high going into turns 1 and 2, and he kind of gave up the position, essentially, to Casey Mears in the 41. Not too sure why he did that. As a matter of fact, I think that actually worked out, because he got a good run on the outside. It actually keeps the spot. Joe Nemechek, he hasn't had the greatest of seasons thus far this season, but got a top 10 last time out of Chicagoland, and it might be turning around his season. Might be the best thing for him is that race, and that might be the start of something new, because his best finish thus far this season was a second place in the Daytona 500 earlier this season. That's how long it's been. See Ryan Newman going around the outside of Casey Mears. Got the rookies of Mears and Gray Biffle on the inside. He gets a good one in the middle. Takes the spot away. Ryan Newman really hasn't been able to do much during the summer. He was pretty consistent during the spring, but he's kind of fallen off. And the same kind of goes for the number 42 and the number 17. Maybe not so much the 42, but definitely the 17. The 17 of Matt Kenseth has definitely not been the fastest during the summer. But look at Jamie McMurray. Look at the hornet's nest he's in. My Lord. Kenseth is able to take the spot away and keep it from McMurray. I think there's something wrong on that 42 car. He's getting freight trained around the outside. He got freight trained by Matt Kenseth. Next is Kenny Wallace. He's keeping us to the inside. There might be something wrong on that Havoline Dodge. So you see now Jeff Green's going around the outside of him. Dave Blaney's there with Todd Bodine. Yeah, I'm not too sure if that 42's got any damage, or maybe has a leak going on, or tires are kind of going away, but it's not going too well for him. Look back to drivers like Jerry Nadeau, Michael Waltrip. It hasn't been great since the Coca-Cola 600, I can tell you that. For Jerry Nadeau, it's the opposite. It's been really good since the Coca-Cola 600, but today's race might be a race for him to forget. Look even further back to Ken Schrader, Sterling Marlin, and here's the main man that we were going to go to, Jack Sprague in the Net Zero Pontiac for Haas. It was 9 races ago at Richmond that Jack Sprague in practice suffered one of the most horrifying crashes of the season, suffering broken bones and a concussion, but nothing too major for Jack Sprague. He just needed time to heal, and with healing came the urge to get back in the car and go racing again. He sat back and watched his replacement driver for the next 9 weeks, and Jason Keller, compete consistently for top 20s and top 25s, and for a win in the Pepsi 400 at Daytona just a couple races ago. And even though Jack Sprague is still kind of recovering from injury, as he's kind of trying to take it easy as best he can, right now he's ahead of 5 drivers, and out of those 5 drivers, there's some pretty good drivers. Drivers such as Ken Schrader, Sterling Marlin, Steve Park. And you got Mike Skinner and Larry Foyt back there too. But he's doing pretty good. But Jack Sprague, he wanted to get back in that zero car as fast as he could, but he didn't want to force the issue. He didn't want to push it. And well, he's back in that car, and he's having the time of his life in there. Meanwhile, up ahead, Johnson's now ahead of Zachary Smithly, who got past Dale Earnhardt Jr. for second. Johnson's kind of running the middle line as Zachary, he got around Dale Earnhardt Jr. with ease, but he's going to try a different line because Johnson's kind of pulling away a little bit. Johnson's getting better runs than that 80 car. And like we said earlier, Zachary, he didn't get a good finish at Chicagoland, and he lost a heap amount of points to Jeff Gordon coming out of that race. He's looking to either gain some of those points back, or if he's going to lose more, which currently right now it doesn't look like he's going to lose a ton more. But if he's going to lose any points, he's going to try to mitigate the loss of points he's going to get coming out of today, even though he's technically a race ahead. But Zachary, he wants to keep that points lead extended, but he wants to get up there and get those 5 extra bonus points and lead a lap, and it seems like Johnson's able to run that middle line better, and maybe Smithly's car just can't really run the middle line. As a matter of fact, on this long shot of the track, you may have saw Zachary, as a matter of fact, in the middle of 1 and 2, running the higher line. See if he'll do it again down here in 3 and 4. And he kind of does. Seems like Johnson and Zach are kind of running the same line in 3 and 4, but I think Smithly was trying to run trying to run the outside line at 3 and 4. But the gap has closed a little bit. See, Johnson goes back to the middle. Smithly actually goes higher. Yeah, Smithly went higher. He actually cut it back down in the middle of 1 and 2. He kind of diamonded the corner to get a really good run off. Junior actually gained some time, but it actually worked out in Smithly's favor. The only issue, I think, for Smithly is 3 and 4, because, yeah, he goes right back to the middle. He can't really run that higher line, and we don't know if it's because he keeps missing it, or if he just can't see the higher line that he wants to run, because you can't necessarily run the outside line around here, like all the way up to the outside, like you could at Chicagoland. There you go. You see Zachary, he's running the higher line in 1 and 2. He's running the line just above the middle line. And that got him a really good launch off of 1 and 2. Look at that. See if he'll try it again in 3 and 4. Actually, it looks like he keeps it on the outside this time. He actually runs that line, the one line above the middle. He got a better run coming out of 3 and 4 that time. So maybe Smithly kind of found something in 3 and 4. That seemed to be the trouble spot for him. See, down in 1 and 2, you see Johnson runs the middle. Zach runs the lane above the middle. It's not really the higher line. We'll call it the high line. We may as well. But yeah, look at that. Smithly, he's gained a lot of time on Johnson. He's actually pulled away from Dale Earnhardt Jr. behind. Has Johnson seen what Zach is doing? And is he going to try to maybe force Zach into a mistake and try to keep him behind? Because if so, he might be doing so right now, because Zach didn't really gain a whole lot coming out of 3 and 4 that time. Gonna put the aero block on him. Yeah, look at Johnson. Runs that middle. He kind of goes a little bit higher. You see Smithly, he kind of cuts back down around the middle point of the corner. So that's what we call the diamond move. Going from the outside, and when you hit essentially the middle of the corner, you start turning down and you diamond it, because then you hit was essentially a second apex, and it launches you up towards the wall, but you're able to keep grip and momentum. That time, Johnson actually got a better 3 and 4 than Smithly. As a matter of fact, I don't think Smithly had really any good corners. I think 1 and 2 may have been his best corner that lap, but it didn't really show it. And Johnson's kind of pulling that gap back now on Smithly. You can see the drivers. Essentially, the gap from Johnson to Smithly is pretty much the same gap from Smithly to Earnhardt Jr. Roughly about a second in between both drivers. You can tell that Johnson, he's not really running away with it, because Smithly is still able to see him. Earnhardt Jr. is essentially still there, even if he's not gaining a whole lot of time. And Ricky Rudd in the 21, he's actually kind of closing in. Look at Zach. He's actually running even higher in 1 and 2. He goes back down even more. That may have actually gave Smithly a better run by going a little bit higher in 1 and 2. I think that's what he may have wanted. See, down here in 3 and 4, it's kind of hard to tell from that camera angle, but I think Zach may have went higher and went to the bottom maybe a bit sooner than he wanted to. It's kind of hard to tell from the long shots, but we can definitely tell. Oh, look at that. Look at how close they are, and look at Smithly. Yeah, look at that. Johnson kind of didn't really hear Johnson get a good run off the corner compared to Smithly, and Smithly got a really good launch out of 1 and 2. Gonna get a little bit closer to Johnson. Can he run that higher line? He's kind of similar to Johnson in 3 and 4. As a matter of fact, Junior's about the same to both of them. But yeah, Zach has definitely shrunk the gap between himself and Jimmy Johnson after essentially falling off the back bumper of him a few laps ago. Smithly isn't quite there to get the lead off of Johnson, but he does know what he has to do in order to really be able to get to Johnson. And maybe Smithly thinks that his car in the middle lane is not running as well as it should, and that's why the higher line is actually working for him. As look at Junior, he's actually running the lower lines. He's closed the gap on Smithly, but Smithly's still kind of closing the gap on Johnson. It's little, but he's closing. Earnhardt Jr. is making a lot of gains on Smithly. Look at him. Look at how close he is to him in 1 and 2. Whoa, Zachary got so loose off of turn 1 and 2. He keeps it straight. And he's going to continue to set after Jimmy Johnson. He was really muscling that car out of 1 and 2, trying to keep ahead of Junior and gain as much time as he can on Jimmy Johnson. 40 laps to go here at New Hampshire, and the pit window will open in the next 4 laps, around lap 40. And the main question is, will any of the leaders take it? Look at Junior! He's going to the inside of Smithly! Can he get him off the corner? He can't quite get him off the corner. They are side by side down the back straightaway. Seems like Smithly will hold it. And he does hold it. Smithly actually got a really good run on that higher line, but look at Junior running the middle. Junior runs that middle line all the more better than Smithly, and can he get him off of turn 4, excuse me? He can't that time. Smithly holds it. Smithly might have to give it up to Junior. He'll keep running that higher line. Junior will run the lower line. Junior will clear him for second. Now Junior can set off after Jimmy Johnson, as it seems like Smithly and Johnson, maybe not so much Smithly, but mainly Johnson, I think his tires are slowly starting to go, and Junior's tires are not going. As a matter of fact, they are on fire for pace. Smithly actually kind of closed the gap on Dale Jr. coming out of turn 3, or out of turn 4. He gained some time on that 8 car, but didn't want to force the issue going into the corner. Probably a good idea. Yeah, Junior, he's actually running a lot lower than Johnson is. As a matter of fact, he was running a lot lower than what Smithly was running before he passed him. I don't know if Junior's going to be able to carry the momentum down the back and into 3. Johnson, he kind of is going to run the middle. He does run the middle. Junior kind of follows him. Oh, but Johnson, he goes a little bit higher. A little bit higher in 3 and 4. Here comes Junior. He's looking low. Johnson, it doesn't think he might be able to get him. He's going to try that higher line. Oh, Johnson went way too high in 1 and 2. Junior to the inside, trying to grab the lead away. Here comes Johnson back on the outside to keep the lead off of turn 2. Now Junior has to regroup and figure out what Johnson's going to do next. Johnson's going to try the higher line again, but here comes Junior back on the inside. Turns 3 and 4 is completely different to 1 and 2. That messes Johnson up, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back out front in New Hampshire. What a battle for the lead we are having. Holy moly. Now the pit window is open for drivers that want to take it. And as a matter of fact, there are a couple drivers that I think have actually decided to come down pit lane. Take a look at a few drivers, and it seems like it is Jeremy Mayfield and Joe Nemechek that are the first couple to come down pit road. We don't know who's quite next, as we see at the top of the screen, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, and Zachary Smithly, they stay out. They're still going to keep going. Ricky Rudd's actually closed the gap on him, so Rudd, he's actually another driver to keep an eye out on. Dave Blaney, we almost forgot to mention him. He came down pit road as well. Got another batch of cars that came down pit road, led by Dale Jarrett in the 88. And you got Rusty Wallace behind him. Tony Raines, I believe, in the 74 was behind Rusty. You got cars coming out of the pits. See Johnson, oh wow, Smithly, he's actually going to go to the inside of Jimmy Johnson and try to grab second place. Johnson went higher in 3 and 4, but look at the run that Johnson's going to get. Or Burnett, Terry Labonte came down pit road as well with Dale Jarrett. You see Ricky Rudd, he actually came down pit road right behind Johnson and Smithly. There's Jack Sprague just ahead of Ricky Rudd. A lot of drivers making pit stops, and none of them are the race leaders. None of them are Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, or Zachary Smithly. It's mainly the cars at the back of the field that came down pit road to make their pit stop. See Kyle Petty, the number 45 and the number 43 of John Andretti, the Richard Petty Motorsports drivers, they came down pit road. Junior, Johnson, and Smithly stay out again. See Jeff Gordon coming out of the pits. Got some more takers coming down pit road. It's Kevin Harvick in the 29. Looks like there's another driver behind him. It's Mark Martin in the 6. There's Greg Biffle, teammate Jeff Burton. You see Jeff Green back there behind Jeff Burton. The Jeffs are down pit road. Casey Mears is down. I think Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's actually coming down pit road as well. He starts slowing down. Yep, here comes Junior. Earnhardt Jr.'s in. Here comes Smithly. He's in. And Jimmy Johnson stays out. So 2 of the 3 leaders come in for their pit stop. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gives up the lead. It's come down pit road. Hands the lead over to Jimmy Johnson. See Dale Earnhardt Jr., he is the pit stall ahead of Smithly. He comes down pit road. Smithly gets in his pit stall nicely. Here comes Tony Stewart. He's in the pits as well. Zach's getting 4 tires. Earnhardt Jr., I think, and Tony Stewart are getting 2 tires. I think the majority of the field's actually taking 2 tires. Jimmy Johnson's going to come down pit road. And you kind of saw Kurt Busch back there. He also came down. I think those were the last couple of cars that needed to come down pit road. As now we'll get a camera angle of Dale Earnhardt Jr., who will be the race leader. There you see Bill Elliott. He's the leader currently right now. Bill Elliott in the 9 still hasn't pitted, but he is the leader. Here comes Junior out of turn 4 down the straightaway. He'll pass Kurt Busch, and then he'll pass Jimmy Johnson. And once Bill Elliott pits, Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be back out front here at New Hampshire. Where Jimmy Johnson comes out of, you see Ricky Rudd and Dale Jarrett are actually ahead of Johnson. Johnson comes out just ahead of Harvick and Tony Raines. They're 3 wide almost down the back straightaway and into 3 and 4 between Johnson and Harvick. Seems like Harvick keeps the outside line. Tony Raines kind of sitting back and waiting to see what happens. Speaking of Kevin Harvick and Tony Raines, there's been a rumor going around that he might be joining RCR for 2004. So that is some pretty big news, and that's big news for drivers like Jeff Green and Steve Park that don't have a confirmed ride for next season. We look even further back, and there you see Zachary Smithly. He got the worst end of the stick on that pit cycle. As a matter of fact, we had an idea that he was probably the only one that took 4 tires, and we are correct. Every other driver around him took right side tires and filled it up with fuel. So Zachary Smithly is the only driver out there right now with 4 tires, while everyone else around him has taken 2, as he's fighting Kurt Busch and Jeremy Mayfield for position. He gets a really good run off at turn 2. Gets a little bit close, but Jeremy Mayfield, he keeps it off of him, though. He did a really good job keeping it off of him. He clears them. As they enter 3 and 4, he's going to stay ahead of that Dodge number 19 and the Rubbermaid Ford. And he is going to take that Napa Chevrolet, and he's going to go away from them. Now his next competition is probably the guy that he thought he was going to fight once he realized he was fighting for the championship. He thought he was going to fight this guy, Ryan Newman, ahead of him. But Ryan really hasn't been there since the spring. All summer long, he really hasn't been there. He's kind of had some good finishes. He's had some pretty decent finishes and mediocre finishes at best, but Zachary Smithly gets around him once again. So we look ahead. It's now Bill Elliott. As a matter of fact, he did come down pit road, so Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the leader. See Ricky Rudd in 21. He's now 2nd. Dale Jarrett's now 3rd. Kevin Harvick's actually going to go after Dale Jarrett for 3rd place. Harvick, he's in need of a good result today. We've been mentioning it ever since really Pocono that Harvick really hasn't had a good string of races since Charlotte in the Coca-Cola 600. So Harvick is in dire need of a good finish today. Look further back there, you see Smithly getting around the number 6 of Mark Martin. He keeps it in the middle. He'll grab the position. Smithly's just kind of setting his sights one driver at a time. And with 26 laps to go, he's got enough time. Right now, he's got Warburton and Joe Nemechek ahead of him. Jeff Gordon, as a matter of fact, is ahead of the both of them. And he wants to get past Jeff Gordon to make sure he doesn't gain any more points. You see the Tonys of Tony Stewart and Tony Raines going at it. Raines kind of goes a little bit higher, but Tony, he gets a good run in the corner. And he'll keep the position. Look at Johnson on the outside of Dale Jarrett trying to grab 4th place. He got a really good run on that higher line. That's what Johnson needed. And in turn, that's going to allow Jimmy Johnson to take 4th place. Now he'll go after Harvick for 3rd. And then he'll go after the number 21 of Ricky Rudd for 2nd. And the main question will be, can Jimmy Johnson run Dale Earnhardt Jr. down? Jr.'s quite a ways up the field. But first, he's got to get through Harvick and Rudd, and before he can even think about that, look at him, he's on the higher line. He's going to get a better run than Kevin Harvick probably ever could coming out of turn 3. And Jimmy Johnson is up to 3rd. Right behind Ricky Rudd in the Motorcraft Ford. Whoa, what happened? Dale Jarrett, it looked like he almost kind of smacked the wall going into 1 and 2, but nothing on the side of the car like indicating he smacked it, so everything seems to be fine there. See Johnson now side by side with Ricky Rudd down the back straightaway. Tony Stewart and Tony Raines are side by side behind them. Johnson keeps it down on the bottom. He gets 2nd place. Harvick on the bottom of Dale Jarrett trying to grab 4th. Johnson clears Rudd. Harvick clears Jarrett. Johnson up to 2nd. Now can Jimmy Johnson run down Dale Earnhardt Jr., the man he's been racing against all race long? See, there's Dale Jr. down the back straightaway. And just behind the ticker, you can't quite see it, but Johnson was essentially in camera view. Just couldn't quite see it. So we look a little bit further back to Zachary Smithly. He's now behind Jeff Gordon, and he got past Joe Nemechek and Warburton. See Jeff Gordon going at it on Rusty Wallace in the 2. Smithly's going to follow in their tire tracks. He's got a really good run coming out of turn 3. He's going to take it all the way to the bottom, making it 3 wide again. Rusty backed out of it. Probably a good idea. And now the top 2 in the championship are going to fight it out for position. Side by side down the back straightaway they go. It's Smithly, Gordon, team owner versus team driver. And the driver beats the owner for this time, for right now at least. Smithly actually kind of backed up the corner a little bit to keep Jeff Gordon behind him. And now Zachary Smithly keeping the charge going. Now if he stays ahead of Jeff Gordon until the end of the race, he'll gain some points. The position that they are in right now, he'll gain 4 points on Jeff Gordon. And those are 4 much-needed points that Zachary really, really wants to gain. Look further ahead to Tony Raines and Tony Stewart. They've actually been staying behind Ricky Rudd and Dale Jarrett, who are 4th and 5th. Tony Stewart's in 6th. Tony Raines is in 7th. Zachary back there was in 8th. Jeff Gordon 9th, and Rusty Wallace 10th. So you look to see Dale Jarrett to the inside of Ricky Rudd to grab 4th. Tony's going to try to follow. And Jarrett pull up to the outside in time. He does. He kind of blocked the run of Ricky Rudd. Rudd might not be too happy with it, but they're not teammates anymore. They haven't been teammates for 19 races. So if Rudd wants to give him the bumper, he can give him the bumper all he wants. They might be a part of the Ford camp, but that don't mean they're teammates. Tony's actually going to grab the position from Rudd to grab 5th. He's going to keep the momentum going and try to grab 4th from Dale Jarrett. And Jarrett goes really high in 1 and 2 once again. And he'll grab 4th. Rudd will follow him. Rudd's going to try to take 5th away from Dale Jarrett. He can't quite clear him off of turn 2, excuse me. But Tony Stewart, I mean, he's had a pretty strong run so far. Him and Harvick. 3rd and 4th right now. Ricky Rudd trying to keep the momentum going after his win at Chicagoland last time out. Dale Jarrett, he had a pretty good run at Chicagoland. He's trying to keep that going as well. So did Tony Raines of the 74. All of them are trying to keep the momentum going after Chicagoland. There's one guy that these drivers got to worry about, and he's kind of sneaking in back there. He just kind of entered the frame, and that's that number 80 car, that blue and yellow Napa Chevrolet of Zachary Smithly. He's coming. And he's coming with a full head of steam on these drivers ahead. He may not be able to get to Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he knows for a fact he can pass all these cars. He's ran them down. This is an unbelievable display from the rookie. It is still crazy to think that Zachary Smithly is a rookie and he's racing like he's been doing this for a long time. He gets to the inside of Tony Raines. He's going to keep it on that left rear corner panel, trying to keep him next to him. We'll go to the inside in 3 and 4. Raines goes a little bit higher, and that might put Zach off a little bit. He actually got tight a little bit in the middle of 3 and 4. Doesn't hit the 74, though. They did it. They hit at Talladega, but they didn't hit today. There goes Zachary Smithly right around the 74 for 7th place. Now you got Rookie Rudd, who sits ahead of him in 6th. Zach's just going to try to keep this momentum going as much as he can. He knows for a fact that he might not be able to catch Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he knows he could definitely pass Ricky Rudd. He knows he could pass Tony Stewart and Dale Jarrett. As a matter of fact, Dale Jarrett knows he could pass Tony Stewart, because look at him go on the inside in 3 and 4, trying to take the 4th spot away from Tony Stewart. Tony barely holds it. As they enter 1 and 2, this might go to Stewart again, because Stewart's got the higher line. He's going to have the momentum coming out of the corner. Actually kind of goes to Jarrett a little bit. Tony did not get the run on the outside in 1 and 2 like we thought he would. Jarrett up to 4th. Back behind them, the battle for 6 between Rudd and Smithly. Smithly wants to get as many positions as he can. He wants to try to get as many points back from Chicagoland as he can in today's race on Jeff Gordon. He's doing everything in his power to grab 6th position away from Rudd, and he's going to do so. But watch out for Rudd. He's got the higher line. This is the line that Johnson used on Earnhardt Jr. earlier when they were battling for the lead, and they had him hold the lead for a little bit. It did not work that time for Rudd, though. Zach actually got a better run in the middle and kept the momentum going in 1 and 2 to actually clear Rudd down the back straightaway. But here comes Rudd again. Well, Rudd got a little bit tight in 3 and 4. Smithly gets a better run, I think, down off a turn 4 down the straightaway. He does. He holds 6th again. Does Rudd go back after him once more? I don't think he can. Oh, here he comes. Oh, Zach. He put his car perfectly right in front of the number 21 to halt that momentum. And look at the run that he got off the corner to hold the position and get an even bigger gap on Ricky Rudd down the back straightaway. My, oh my. Like I said, aside after Tony Stewart, who sits 5th right now, and that's a top 5 finish that Zachary knows for a fact that he can get. Dale Jarrett sits 4th. Kevin Harvick sits in 6th. Just ahead of them is Jimmy Johnson in 2nd. And then all the way up the road in turn number 2 is Dale Earnhardt Jr. keeping the lead and putting Larry Foyt 1 lap down. Today, there is no way that this is not Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s race to lose right now. This is all Dale Jr. There is nobody else that I think in my mind that this race could go to than that Bud 8 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He has been dominant all day long. And if it's not him, it's this guy right here, Jimmy Johnson, who's at 2nd. But he's been fast since the pit cycle. And Jimmy Johnson, he just hasn't been able to get any sort of time on Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's just kind of mired back here in 2nd, barely ahead, or not barely ahead, but just enough ahead of Kevin Harvick in the 29 to keep 2nd spot. But Dale Jr., he's flying. To come off turn number 4, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to see 10 laps to go here at New Hampshire. He's got 10 more laps to seal the deal and to give DEI their first win of the 2003 season. And this has been a season that DEI has really been struggling with, both on and off track. As you see Zachary going for 5th on Stewart, trying to take the position away. He can't quite do it, and that's fine. That's fine for Zach, it seems like, as he's going to hold it on the inside. He's going to try to maybe see if he can get him in 3 and 4. He gets a little bit tight. They almost made contact going into 3, but it seems like Stewart got the better run anyways. He got the better end of it. Smithly, he stayed behind him. There's one thing we know, Smithly, he can't really run the lower lines. He's only been able to run that higher line in 1 and 2 when his tires start to go away. And Tony, because he's out there still and he's not going to give up that line, it's making it a lot more difficult on Smithly. But Smithly's still fighting back on that inside, still trying to see if he can get something on that 20 car. He goes higher in 3 and 4 again. My oh my, that 80 car, it is not liking the bottom. He really needs to get Tony off that higher line so he can maybe make a pass, but like we said before, Tony, he ain't getting off that higher line. Well, now he did, but before, he wasn't getting off that higher line, especially as Smithly was already to his inside. Stewart's trying to hold on to a top 5. He hasn't gone to top 5 in a while. So he's trying to hold on to it and make sure that he gets this top 5 and tries to get another good finish for that number 20 team. He's a defending Winston Cup Series champion. He's trying to prove it, but he hasn't really had the season to show for it. But Tony Stewart, he's been there, just not as often as we think. It's like Kurt Busch. He's been there, but really hasn't been able to seal the deal. Even the same goes for guys like Dale Jarrett and Kevin Harvick, but in Harvick's case, he hasn't been there since Charlotte. There's not really much to say about that. See, Zach, what we got, he really muscling that car off turns 1 and 2 once again to get to the inside of Tony Stewart and going to 3 and 4. They almost made contact again. Holy cow, they almost made contact. Smithly actually keeps it on the inside of Stewart as they head off a turn 4. And oh no! Into the wall goes Smithly. Caution is out here in New Hampshire. Oh no! And Jeff Gordon is going to pass him. Oh my Lord. The Winston Cup points leader, we believe, got tight off of turn 4, and somehow him hitting that wall nose first did not end his race, and everybody is shocked about that. And we do have replay, so let's go on board with Tony Stewart, see what he saw. AC Zachary kind of got a little bit tight, kind of pushed the 20 up the track, but he did keep it there. Zach just kind of goes up and up and up. Oh, there's the contact. Oh! Smithly, I think, just got tight going into the corner and even coming off the corner. We can see from his perspective on board with Zach. Yeah, you can. I think they even made contact right there. Oh man, the amount of times he lifted. Oh, that sucks for him. He lifted so many times to prevent himself from getting into Stewart, and it just wasn't enough. You'll see Gordon go by right there. Definitely not something Zach wanted to see. Yeah, just look at this. Just a little bit of contact. Bam! How Zach's race has not ended from that is shocking to me and everybody else. The fact his race is not over is the biggest shock so far of the season. And Smithly, as a matter of fact, you can see him in that banged up number 80 car. He is sitting in 8th place. However, I can say this, if there's one thing that Smithly was really hoping for, is that this race would end under caution. Because his main rival, Jeff Gordon, is 1 spot ahead of him. And because Zach's actually smacked that wall pretty good, he's lost quite a bit of power. That engine and radiator, they've taken some damage. That aerodynamics as well, it's taking some damage. Taking quite a big chunk of it. Zach would love for this race to end under caution, but hate to be the bearer of bad news for Zachary Smithly, but we're going back racing. We're gonna go back racing with 2 laps to go. Earnhardt Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Kevin Harvick, Dale Jarrett, and Tony Stewart round out the top 5. The pace car looks to pit road, and here we go. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leads them back. Green flag is back in the air. We're back racing here in New Hampshire. Earnhardt Jr. just has to hold on for 2 laps. And the first win, his first win of the 2003 season will be his. The same can't be said for the number 80 of Zach, but he really wants this race to be over fast. Look at him. You can barely see him, but he's holding off a Hornet's nest back there of drivers. As they enter 3 and 4, Dale Earnhardt Jr., when he comes off turn 4, he's going to see the white flag, and it'll be one more time around New Hampshire. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s last win was the 2002 EA Sports 500 at Talladega. He hasn't won on an oval since Dover in 2001. He only won at Talladega in 2002, and he hasn't won a non-restricted plate in over 2 years. In almost 2 years, in a year and a half. But today is Earnhardt Jr.'s day and it is DEI's day. Dale Earnhardt Jr. comes off turn number 4. He'll not only grab his first win of the season, but he'll be the 10th different winner of the 2003 season. Congratulations to Dale Earnhardt Jr. and that entire number 8 team. To say this win was long overdue would be an understatement, but you wouldn't be wrong, because this one has been waiting in the wings to happen. Good job to Dale Earnhardt Jr. and good job to that entire 8 team. They earned it and they deserved it. Whew. Well then, what a race, what a finish, and what a final few laps. My, oh my. Doesn't get any better than that. I can tell you all that right now. Ooh. Well then, let's go on ahead and take a look at the finishing results, shall we? Because there's quite a bit of big stuff. There's quite a lot of stories to talk about coming out of today. So, Dale Earnhardt Jr. grabs his first win of the 2003 season and his first win on a non-restrictor plate in a year and a half. He's got Kevin Harvick at second with his best finish so far of the season and his best finish of the summer. Take that into consideration. Then Jimmy Johnson finishes in third. Dale Jarrett finishes in fourth. Tony Stewart in fifth. You got yet another top 5 even after the crash between him and Tony Stewart. You got Ricky Rudd 6th, Jeff Gordon in 7th, Mark Martin 8th, Rusty Wallace in 9th, and Zachary Smithly with a banged up race car, low on power, low on everything. The damage wasn't enough to hold him down, and he gets a 10th place finish. And in turn, he only loses 12 points to Jeff Gordon. So that is actually not that bad for Zach. Even though it's still 12 points that he lost, it's not really an extreme amount. But it is 12 points that he's going to have to get back next time out at Pocono, which he finished second there earlier in the year. So we're going to have to wait and see for what happens there. But yeah, unbelievable on Zachary's behalf. Unbelievable. Really good race for him, and he held on to a top 10. Doesn't get any better than that. And you got the top 20 with Matt Kenseth finishing in 11th. Tony Raines finishes in 12th. Kurt Busch in 13th. Ryan Newman in 14th. Joe Nemechek with the top 15. Jeremy Mayfield with the 16th. Ward Burton 17th. Terry Labonte 18th. Greg Biffle with his first top 20 in a few races in 19th. And Bill Elliott rounds out the top 20. He was the only other driver besides Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jimmy Johnson to lead laps here today. And then you got Jeff Green in 21st, John Andretti 22nd, Jeff Burton in 23rd, Michael Waltrip 24th, Jimmy Spencer in 25th, Kyle Petty 26th, Jamie McMurray in 27th, Jerry Nadeau, his strong performance and his strong runs come to an end here at New Hampshire with the 28th, Casey Mears in 29th, and Elliott Sadler finishes in 30th. Then you got Dave Blaney 31st, Johnny Benson in 32nd, Bobby Labonte in 33rd, Ricky Craven in 34th, Sterling Marlin in 35th, Robbie Gordon in 36th, Jack Sprague in his first race back, 37th. Good job to him. Mike Skinner in 38th. Kenny Wallace in 39th. And Todd Bodine finishes in 40th. And you got the last 3 finishing results of Ken Schrader 41st, Steve Park 42nd, and Larry Foyt finishes in 43rd. And that is the finishing results for today's race. So, now it is time to get into the point standings, which, there's a lot to talk about. But with the 12 points that Zachary Smithly lost from Jeff Gordon coming out of today's race, he still maintains his points lead coming out of today, but it has shrunk. Jeff Gordon has closed the gap by a little bit, and he is now, with the 12 points that he gained, he is now 177 points back from Zachary Smithly coming out of today. You got Ryan Newman in third with Ricky Rudd a close fourth. Jimmy Johnson sits in fifth. Kurt Busch in sixth. Bill Elliott in seventh. Jeff Green in eighth. Matt Kenseth in ninth. And Jeff Burton rounds out the top 10. One key thing to note about this, Kurt Busch. He is the only driver in the top 7 that hasn't won a race this season. So he actually splits all the winners so far that are sitting inside the top 7 right now. Maybe Kurt Busch will get one, but like we said before, he's been there. He's been consistent. It's just a shame that he really hasn't been able to show it. But we think here eventually it will happen. Then you got the top 20 with Dale Earnhardt Jr., today's race winner, not finishing, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in 11th. Dale Jarrett up to 12th. Jamie McMurray in 13th. Kevin Harvick is now 14th. Michael Waltrip in 15th. Bobby Labonte down to 16th. Jeremy Mayfield 17th. Tony Stewart in 18th. Tied with Tony Raines, as a matter of fact, in 19th. Those two cannot stop getting tied for points. And you got Cherry Nadeau in 20th. He falls down a place, but he's still in the top 20. Still a good result for him. Or still good for him, but he wishes he was higher. You got the top 30 with Rusty Wallace in 21st, Mark Martin in 22nd, Johnny Andretti 23rd, Sterling Marlin in 24th, Greg Biffle in 25th, Terry Labonte 26th, Elliott Sadler 27th, Johnny Benson in 28th, Kyle Petty 29th, and Joe Nemechek still top 30, even with that 15th place finish. So he's going to try to get himself even higher in points, maybe try to get up to where Terry Labonte is, because Terry, actually, as a matter of fact, I believe gained a position. Or I think he may have stayed in the same position. Yeah, actually, he stayed in the same position. So, hey, not bad for them at all. Not bad for them. And then you got the top 40 with Dave Blaney 31st, Casey Mears in 42nd, Ricky Craven in 33rd, Steve Park down to 34th. Man, it is not going good for that number 31 car lately, has it? And then Warburton in 35th. And now it is Kenny Wallace 36th, Robbie Gorham falls down to 37th, Top 38th, Larry Foy in 39th, and Ken Schrader in 40th. And then 41st through 50th, it is Jimmy Spencer 41st, Mike Skinner 42nd, Jason Keller 53rd, Jack Sprague in 44th. See a little bit of change within the number, but Jack Sprague, always good to have him back. And if he just finishes the next race, so he'll be ahead of Jason Keller. He'll be the last driver, at least full time. He'll be last place, but he was gone for 9 weeks. You can't really, blame him, but. 44th is Jack Sprague, 45th is Scott Pruitt, 46th Casey Atwood, 47th is Mike Wallace, 48th Christian Fittipaldi, 49th is Kerry Earnhardt, and 50th is Shelby Howard. The 51st is Hermie Sadler, 52nd Buckshot Jones, 53rd Derek Cope, 54th is Kirk Shelmerdine, 55th is Bobby Hamilton Jr., 56th is Brett Bodine, 57th is Kevin LePage, 58th is Morgan Shepherd, and 59th is Boris Said. And that is the point standings coming out of today's race. Whew. That was a lot, but as always, thank you to Iceman for doing the point standings. He is an absolute beast when it comes to it, because I knew if I did it, I would confuse myself so much. I am glad that we got Iceman to do that. So thank you to Iceman. All the credit goes for him for the points. Thank you so much for doing it. I really, really appreciate it. And it means a lot. Thank you so much. Now, after that crazy race here in New Hampshire, the next race that we are going to be going to. That took a little bit to get out of my mouth, but hey, we got there. But the next race will be the Pennsylvania 500 at the Pocono Raceway. The second and last trip up north to Pocono, Pennsylvania. And we're going to see who could tackle Pocono this time around. Last time we went, it was Dale Jarrett that tackled it and won after a three-way battle between himself, Rusty Wallace, and, funnily enough, Zachary Smithly for the win. Who knows if it'll be the same way this time around? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we'll see. We will see. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for coming out. I will see you all Wednesday, so that's tomorrow as a matter of fact, for the in-car version of the Pennsylvania 500 at Pocono. So I hope you guys are excited. I know I am. First midweek race of the season. And I'll see you all then. So have a great day, everyone. I love y'all oh so very much. And the final time tonight, goodbye.